Could I begin by having you state your full name and your title here?
Mike Stevens with a V, Stevens, and I'm the executive director of the Moxie Cinema.
Okay. How long have you been in that position?
5 years now. Yeah.
Okay.
The original owners are a young couple named Dan and Nicole Chilton. They still live in town. I just saw Nicole this morning. And so they created the Moxie at the original location, which is one block this way on Walnut. And that was a one-screen location, and that was 10 years ago, September, what would it be, 2005?
Yep.
That's some tough math right there. I managed it. Yeah. Founded the Moxie. They created it out of nothing. It's inspired by a two-screen art house theater in Columbia, Missouri called the Ragtag Cinema, which they attended when they went to Mizzou, and they really loved. They grew up going to movies, obviously, but they met at a movie theater at the Springfield 11 when they were in high school, I think. And so Springfield's lucky enough that they came back here to do that, to create this theater. And after 5 years, they had just had their first child, Jasper, a boy who's now in kindergarten. But just the realities of parenting and kind of where they were in their life, they were ready to sell the Moxie. And so when the word came out about that, a group of longtime Moxie supporters and people that just come to the theater all the time rallied together, secured financing, and bought it from the Chiltons so they could, get their equity out. The thing that they created, they could, get their money out for doing that, which was amazing. I mean, I could not have founded this place. So and then so I was the first executive director, the only so far. Hopefully there'll be many more.
So how did the Moxie get its name?
They had two different names originally. I think one was something like Criterion, something kind of very rigorous and intellectual, and then one was, and then the Moxie. And I think the idea that they had, Dan and Nicole, was, well, in order to do something like this, you got to have a lot of Moxie. And I think they're right, and I love the name, and we've obviously stuck with it, and it's kind of continuing to be an unspoken mission statement of ours to think kind of what would Dan and Nicole do, how would we do this, and kind of show Moxie and not just be kind of a monolith or something. Even as we've grown a little bit, we still kind of try to think, how would we do this, make it scrappy, make it quick, and keep it cheap, so we can stick around.
What do you think has set the Moxie apart from other theaters in Springfield over the last 10 years? Because we have, I think, 3 major mainstream theaters, and then we have this place.
Mm-hmm.
So how has this been different from the other?
I think there's two sides to it. I think the obvious big thing is that we show movies that otherwise would not come to town. We show art house fare. Sometimes there's some crossover, but when I've done the math for 1 year, we showed 92% of our movies did not show elsewhere. But around Oscar season, that's when you have people will share titles usually, and those are the big titles. So I'm glad that we have them. But when it comes to right now, they're not going to be playing Infinitely Polar Bear. They are playing Grandma, Slow Time of the Year. But we have a series of movies that are first run films that I know they're not going to play over the next week. And so that's the obvious big thing, that we just show movies that they do not, and that's one of our missions. But I think more importantly, almost, is that there's a sense of community that's been created around the Moxie. People that have come to really love what we do and what we show and support it. Even before it became a nonprofit, there was definitely that was something that they created, the Chiltons, and that we're trying to nurture and keep in place. That's something that's kind of irreplaceable. There's other small stuff, we're just smaller. We don't look and act like a multiplex. We don't have teenagers in vests. Most of our staff are in college or just recently graduated, and they're wearing whatever they're wearing that day. usually really smart, really like working here, and that shows. You know, people that actually want to be working somewhere.
Right.
And then also the people that come here like that we're here, and so they treat the staff well. And there's even before I worked here, just a nice place to visit, and especially if you're into movies, obviously. For me, that's the biggest thing for working here, and the thing that makes the Moxie important for the Ozarks is that we're helping bring culture here. These are movies that are part of a larger national conversation. Usually they're released in New York and Los Angeles first, and you start hearing about them. You see people on shows, NPR covers it, New York Times, New Yorker, and now Springfield gets to see those movies.
I understand that you also have a kids education program.
Yeah.
Can you go over what that is?
So it's called Moxie Kids, and it's largely based around the Moxie Mornings, which is, so we have short films that are usually European animated shorts. We do 3 or 4 of them, and then we have somebody who's leading discussion kind of with the kids while they're watching it, saying, what did you think of that? Did you notice this? And afterwards they have we have an art activity that's kind of related to what they saw. We also do field trips. I think this is more overtly educational, in that there's actual pedagogy. So we have somebody come in, and a field trip from kids come in from, say, Bolivar, and you go over stop motion animation, and you explain how the illusion of motion was created with film, and then you start talking about how would you create that story using visual cues. Just the idea of what I call visual literacy. Kind of, kids are very sophisticated consumers of media, obviously, and only more so. I think what we are wanting to do is to make them literate, so they can understand how these images are created, so they can understand why they're influencing them, and whether it's advertisements or Sesame Street. If you understand how something's happening, then you can, it gives you a lot of power.
Okay. So what's been your favorite thing about working here?
Working here, I don't. This is a great job. I think it's the best job in Springfield. I love what I do. I think the funnest parts are usually getting to kind of walking around town and getting recognized, and people saying thank you. For doing a great job. That's like getting thanked for doing something you really enjoy is nice. But the thing I think I'm most excited about is some of those education programs, and getting to try new things, like trying to create a series of documentaries that we have coming up in October, trying to expand kind of what I call classic or repertory programming, movies that really shaped how things are created now. So people, it's not just kids, so adults can see how we got to where we are now in this art form in movies. That's the most exciting thing right now.
Moxie's turning 10 this year. Is there anything that you're doing to celebrate that milestone?
Yeah, we just had a big fundraiser, which we had 200 people attend, and that's been our biggest fundraiser by double. And had our cake, and had a group up from Drury University called the Dukes who played. I think we're also planning just on doing a special one-day event. But we're still kind of working on it here in the theater. That'd be kind of a thanks. And I have to figure out exactly what we're going to do, but I think right now just kind of so busy that keeping all the balls in the air is the priority. But the fundraiser is the big thing, that just kind of thanking the Chiltons for creating it. They were there, and getting a chance to say thanks to them, and give them the one and only founders passes so they can come to anything here for free for as long as the Moxie's open. Not that we would have taken their money before that. Now it's an official thing.